Hi everybody, I hope you are doing well, and thank you so much again for taking the time to watch my whiskey wandering videos. This time I'm doing a compendium of the 5 best Irish whiskeys that are for sale at Costco today, right now, that you should consider buying prior to St. Patrick's Day. I know I sure did. This Costco that we visit this time is at Topanga, which is in the northern part of Los Angeles, as well as a second single San Diego Costco, just for reference. Now, before we get to it, if you like these videos of me walking around doing some whiskey shopping at Costco, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when my newest videos get put up. All right, so let's get down to business. Right now we can see that Costco is still pretty flush with a lot of whiskeys in anticipation of St. Patrick's Day. Some of them seem to be pretty good and high quality and even, dare I say, collectible, but others are primarily just meant maybe for drinking and having a good time and mixing with other things and channeling your inner Irishness that comes out on the St. Patrick's Day. But since it's St. Patrick's Day this week, I'm going to just talk about the 5 Irish whiskeys that I would buy, and in fact did buy from Costco this week prior to St. Patrick's Day. Also, by the way, there are not in any particular order, so it's not listed best from worst or worst to best. They're just kind of in the order that I encountered them at Costco. Okay, so first up to bat is the Redbreast La Style, which is a whiskey that I don't think I gave it enough its due early on. I had seen it a variety of times, and because it didn't have an age statement, and it seemed, I don't know, a bit gimmicky with its emphasis on the usage of sherry cask, the La Style cask, I only bought one at the time. Now, upon future research, it seems that the ratings are actually pretty good on it, and it's kind of sort of hard to find, and I dumbly just bought one. Sad. But with that out of the way, the cost for it at Costco right now is at $56.99. But if you buy 2 of them prior to St. Patrick's Day, they will take off roughly 10% or $6. In the wild, the cost for Redbreast Lustau is at the high of $79.99 and at the low at $74.39. So there isn't much variance in price, and in fact, there isn't really many people offering it. The average price does, though, come out to $77.19. So if you buy 2 at Costco, you basically get a savings of 26% over the average cost. The ABV, or alcohol by volume, is set at 46%, which is sort of right down the middle of the alcohol level that I like, and has tasting notes of red berry fruits, apples, marzipan, spice, with cloved honey and creamy textures. The reviews on the Redbreast La Style were mostly favorable, which you would expect from the Redbreast family of Irish whiskies and from Middleton, the larger phylum from which this whiskey hails from. Specific reviews of it range from the mid-80s out of 100 all the way up to the low 90s, with the average coming out to 86.25 points. Now, the note on this says that the La Style seems relatively rare, although it does seem to be everywhere in Costco right now. It is probably likely that Costco probably bought up all the U.S. supply of it, because there's not a lot of places outside of Costco that have this specific Redbreast La Style version. So I have to go back and get some more, hopefully, if there's any left by the time I end up making my way back there. But overall, this seems like a pretty interesting new addition to the Redbreast family, mixed with its Spanish sherry cask, which makes it a very masculine, sophisticated taste. So this one, I'm definitely going to put down as a buy more as soon as I come across it, and, you know, I'll write this down as a learning experience for myself. Now, the next whiskey that I spotted out is the Green Spot. This is another whiskey that I had never paid much attention to prior to starting down this whiskey journey, and really has only popped up on my radar in these last couple months or so. The price at Costco is on sale if you buy 2, again, like the Redbreast Lustau, where the normal price is at $42.99, but if you buy 2, then the price goes down to $36.99, with a low and high in the wild at $55.99 and $45.87. So that puts the average cost at $50.93, and if you buy 2 at Costco, you save around 15%, 15.59, let's call it 15.6% on the price. The alcohol by volume ABV is 40%, so it is a little bit weak for my preference, but you know, the drunkenness of whiskey is just one of the added benefits, along with the complexity of flavor, so it doesn't always have to be quote-unquote high gravity to be good. The tasting notes on it are malty, dried fruits, caramel, spice, and honey drizzled granola. And surprisingly for the bottle that doesn't seem to be selling that well at the stores, the reviews on the Green Spot gave it a pretty solid 90 points, which is a really good score. The reviews overall seem to be clustered around that 90-point area, so again, that is a pretty good consensus. And maybe it's just like the whiskey drinkers who drink it really like it, but the folks who don't drink it don't know and don't drink it and don't know whether to review it or not. Also, with that discount, it does make it a pretty attractive buy. And the notes on the Green Spot mention that it does have an older whiskeys in it, but the youngest whiskey that's available inside the Green Spot that's mixed in is a 7-year-old whiskey at minimum. It doesn't have an age statement on the bottle, and it is distilled by Middleton, who also makes Redbreast, Middleton whiskeys, and all the renditions therein. Overall, the outstanding reviews for the Green Spot make it a hard bottle to keep passing by. So in my book, these Green Spots are going to be a buy immediately, which is kind of sort of a no-brainer. Now, the next whiskey on the list is going to be the big brother to the Green Spot, appropriately named the Yellow Spot. Now, this whiskey seem to be in a far skimpier supply than the Green Spot in general, and is really only available at a few Costco's that I have seen. So it doesn't have the ubiquity of the Green Spot, and I was happy to find it on this last trip. The price at Costco right now is at $82.99, which is a big jump from the Green Spot, and in the wild has a high and low cost of $124.99 and $115.99 on the low side, which if we put the average cost together, that comes out to $120.49. So if you do end up getting it from Costco, you'll save around 31% over the street price, which again is quite good. It has a higher ABV than the other one, the Green Spot, at 46% alcohol by volume, and that is enough to make the alcohol present, but really it also makes it part of the palate. It's not going to be overwhelming. The tasting notes on the Yellow Spot are pretty interesting. They are that it has caramel, butterscotch, spicy toasted bananas, which sounds pretty good, and orchard fruit. So I would definitely consider buying this one, and has a considerably more varied flavor than the Green Spot. The reviews gave this whiskey an average of 90, with only a few really low numbers bring that average down to 90. So it actually had a higher score in the 90s than the Green Spot, but it had a few lower ones that brought it down to an average of 90. Furthermore, the notes on it are that the Yellow Spot has been aged 12 years. It is the older brother to the Green Spot, and it has had the benefit of a couple additional years on it from the Green Spot to develop. It is still aged in ex-bourbon and ex-sherry cask, but it also has the added benefit of being aged in Spanish Malaga wine cask, and that adds a higher level of complexity as well as sophistication. Again, like a big brother who came back from college on Thanksgiving and now is way more interesting than that guy who used to flick boogers at you across the dinner table. Now, the only downfall to this that is mentioned is that there is heavier barley notes in the Yellow Spot, which kind of dulls some of that complexity down. The conclusion on this one is that it is going to be a definite buy, as though it seems to be in short supply. And I mean, honestly, I actually ended up buying the last two that I saw at the Costco anyway. So now next up is the Redbreast 12, which is an Irish whiskey that is a well-established, quote-unquote, good whiskey, and is something that disappears pretty quickly every time it shows up on the shelf. I see them one day at Costco, and then the next day, they're all gone. Costco price on them right now is at $47.99, with the high and low on the street price at $82.98 and $59.99, which puts the average cost outside of Costco in the area at $71.49. The ABV, or the alcohol by volume, on it is at 40%. Again, it's kind of a little bit low for me, but that means it can really allow other flavors to start to stand out. Or it could be maybe good to share with the wife. Just kidding. Now, the tasting notes give it the flavor of toffee, leather, pepper, and fresh baked bread, which will be really interesting to see. And the average for reviews I found online is at 87.2 points out of 100. In the end, I think that this is an important whiskey to have in your collection, especially in the Irish section. But I would imagine it's probably going to be something that, I drink here and there every once in a while, but it will not be something that I consistently have to replace because the bottles are always empty. So again, if you're in a situation where you are bored with some of the other entry-level Irish whiskeys, this Redbreast 12 is a good step up to get you to that next level and get you prepared for some of the more complex and interesting whiskeys that Ireland has to offer. Now, this last Irish whiskey on the list for today is the one that I've only seen once at the Costco in San Diego, so I jumped at the chance to buy it, and I had never really seen it since as well. It's the Teeling BlackPitts Irish whiskey. When that seems to be a distinguishing aspect of this one is the fact that it is a peated Irish whiskey, which seems to make it unusual within the Irish class. So I saw that and I decided to pick it up. The cost at Costco right now is at $59.99, while out in the wild, it has a high and low of $129.99 on the high end and $79.99 on the low end. This puts that average price at $104.99. So buying it at Costco, you'd be paying around 42.86% less than on the street price. So I'm guessing that some people who are on the street are probably trying to price this whiskey all over the place because they're not really sure. It's a relatively small batch, or it has a small footprint, and it's kind of an interesting whiskey type. So maybe they're trying to put the prices higher and hoping that it'll bring in people to buy it at that price, but we'll have to see. That's probably the reason why it's all over the place. The reviews give an average score of 89 out of 100, but I think, again, it suffered a bit from those tasters who have an anti-peaty bias, or maybe didn't know what to expect of an Irish whiskey that has been peated. So that's what I think has really resulted in a very respectable still score of 89 points, but it probably could have been higher, if it didn't have that peatiness, or if those folks didn't view that peatiness as less good. For my notes on it, I have the BlackPitts is a unique take on Irish whiskey that is not usually peated. And just in case you are not sure exactly what peated means, it's the kind of that smoky flavor, something like you would get with Lafroig or Lagavulin. It's super common in a lot of scotches, but not so common in Irish whiskeys. The BlackPitts is distilled by Teeling, obviously, and doesn't have an age statement associated with it. But overall, I am actually really excited to try this one out. The yellow spot sounds really good, but this Teeling also looks really interesting. So I did end up buying 2 bottles of it. It doesn't seem to be that prevalent in Costco's around the state. And again, I only saw it at that Costco in San Diego. So I'm not sure if they just got a small number of them, or maybe they got bought up everywhere else and all the other Costco's before I got there. So I'd say if you like smoky type whiskeys and are interested in Irish whiskeys, this one is definitely going to be a buy. It seems to be a bit experimental, and if it is delicious but doesn't sell that well, I could see how it would go away, and then you're kind of left with these rare whiskeys, which again doesn't always mean that they're valuable and doesn't always mean that they're good, just could mean that they're rare. So for me, I would buy one now to try and then buy one to hold for later. All right, so that was it for today's Whiskey Wandering St. Patrick's Day edition, covering the 5 Irish whiskeys that you should consider buying from Costco right now. Again, thank you all so much for watching to the end, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get notified when my newest videos get put up. Also, don't forget, if you do see a whiskey that you love, just buy it. Because if you don't, somebody else surely will. And it might even be me. So have a great rest of your day. Have a safe St. Patrick's Day. I'm out. Adios.